intrinsic wisdom teaches us that, yes, I can learn, I can be curious, I can grow, I can get out of the quicksand of comfort zone, and I can still trust myself to stay grounded. And that's when you realize that the heart and the head actually play a very beautiful symphony together.
Your brain is like your phone. If you let things clog up, you don't clean it, you operate according to factory settings or the default stuff, and you don't teach your brain how to operate, then your brain is not going to enhance your life. It's going to exhaust you. And that is what we mean by mental energy, your brain's capacity to function.
And people who tell me, hey, can you teach me how to perform and lead better? And I tell them, yeah, we can do that, and we can also train you to sleep like a cat.
Are going to drain our energy on a day-to-day basis. And of course, you could cope with it. We all end up coping with life, but that's a bit of a sad way to live. So essentially, if you always are charging up your phones, then you should charge yourself up and think about how you can run yourself super efficiently. And in this case, we're going to think about how we can create predictable patterns of behavior, not completely throughout your day, but during some pockets of your day. Because when you can have predictable patterns, then you conserve your brain's energy. And that is the kind of compound interest that we want to grow. Because as your energy gets conserved, then you also start to charge yourself up even more. Whereas if you have bad habits,
Recharge at night, because when you sleep, your brain is not only filing and consolidating your memories, it's also clearing out all the gunk that's happened during the day, all the irrelevant stuff, kind of like your brain is deleting all the photos you don't need that you took during the day. So your nervous system literally goes like, boop, and in times of abuse, it wakes up. And guess what? It thinks this is love.
So that itself.
why am I condemning myself to the worst possible outcome? You know?
Okay.
Where does it come from?
Okay. And so I would feel better if after an interaction, I try and think about how positive I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I focus on that before I meet people.
Yes. So let's give you an example on how to make it real. Okay, so you know that feeling of accomplishment, of satisfaction after you had a really great interaction with somebody. Where do you feel it in your body?
I feel warm around here.
Warm around.
Chatting with you. Who doesn't like having a compliment? And not only do they throw one flatter, they throw it in a whole barrage, and we call that love bombing. When somebody keeps sending you a lot of flattery and attention, you go, oh, this person puts in effort. This must be different. And when our brains hook onto this may be it, our hearts flutter and we lose our brains.
Because there was this man who for such a long time had been coming in drunk at 4 a.m. and disturbing my sleep. So I drew my boundary and said no. And as I flipped through that book and read through that whole list.
When naval captains plan voyages, they work backwards from the destination that they choose, and then they plot key checkpoints.
Olympians taught me that if you want to go to the next level from being great to elite, then you have to rest, you have to recover, otherwise your body will force you into recovery by making you ill and sick and achy. So when it comes to optimum rest, there is no right and wrong. Again, you have to experiment to see what works for you. But let's say, you've got let's say you're working really, really hard, then you have to make sure that you sleep enough at night, or you are able to put in the naps in between your day. And so a trauma is what's happening to your nervous system, which is your brain, your nerve cells, and your spinal cord. And when you're in a state of trauma, what happens is that a clock in your brain thinks that now is then. So I had clients who had trauma in, say, so I'm sitting with them in a room, and let's say it's 2023, and then suddenly they're smelling the petrol fumes from the petrol station in 1986. That's how real trauma is. Like very fuzzy concepts. It's almost like things that happen or can be achieved overnight. Like for instance, oh, let's go to something and let's have well-being. Or suddenly somebody wakes up overnight and
scramble to do that when it comes to neurodiversity, because we can look within our organizations, because there are plenty of neurodiverse people already.
But it's also associated with your head because you contemplate, which actually tells us that your heart and head can be one.
Oh,
that's nice.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is my second day in a row, interacting.
Rose to a position of senior leadership, things were implemented really quickly. that's all to do with this term called trust currency, or what I like to call good karma points. Because when people know you and people trust you, things get done really, really fast, right? As compared to somebody else, you know, things are moving really, really sluggishly. So good karma points are super important. And people are always willing to activate their favors and contacts for you.
State where it's incredibly chaotic, like there's a tsunami in their head, and they're always doubting themselves, and you know, you start seeing things like panic attacks happening as well, and that's often your body's cue that you are not safe, you're in danger, you need to leave, somebody is going to hurt.
So what I'm trying to say here is that in your treasure map, you have to make room for unexpected adventures, because Bisley is incredibly global and the oceans are massive. Thank you.